Have you ever woken up on an ordinary morning and found yourself lying still, listening to a kind of silence that feels heavier than usual? Maybe you're in your 40s, 50s, or 60s. Maybe you've spent years building a life, working, raising a family, chasing goals, making plans, weathering disappointments. But now, as you pause for a moment in the midst of all this, a quiet question echoes somewhere deep inside. Is this all there is? What am I really searching for in the years I have left? How do I live the rest of my life lightly, peacefully, and with a true sense of meaning? As the calendar pages turn, you may notice that certainty slips away, replaced by a sense of restlessness, or perhaps a gentle ache. Things that once seemed important, career titles, social status, even certain relationships, may start to lose their shine. You might find yourself measuring your days not by accomplishments, but by a yearning for something deeper, quieter, more lasting. It's not that your life lacks blessings or joy, but there's a different kind of longing now, a wish for peace that feels effortless, for happiness that isn't shaken by every change or loss, for a wisdom that helps you let go of old wounds and walk more lightly on the earth. The world often tells us that life's second half should be about comfort and security. We're taught to prepare for retirement, collect memories, and enjoy the fruits of our labor. But the heart rarely follows a script. Sometimes, in these middle years, there's a kind of loneliness, even in the midst of a crowd. There are questions that family or friends can't quite answer for us. What do I do with regrets that still haunt me? How do I forgive those who've hurt me, or forgive myself? How do I let go of the fear of getting old, of losing my health, of being left behind? If you've ever asked yourself any of these questions, know that you're not alone. These doubts are natural. In fact, they are a sign of a heart that is awakening, slowly, to a new way of living. The pain or emptiness you sometimes feel is not a weakness, but a doorway, a silent invitation to explore the spiritual dimension of your life. Why is this moment in your life so important? Because this is the time when the rush of youth fades and the rare opportunity appears. It's the moment to reflect, to simplify, to understand what truly matters, and to begin practicing the art of letting go before life demands it of us. We spend so much energy clinging to the illusion of control. But as we cross into the second half of life, we discover that peace isn't found by holding tighter. It's found by loosening our grip and trusting a deeper wisdom within ourselves. This journey, this transformation, is the heart of the Dharma. It is not a set of beliefs to memorize, but a path to walk step by step, breath by breath. But how do we begin? What does it actually mean to live lightly when the world still presses down on us, when responsibilities, losses, and worries haven't disappeared? Is it possible to find real peace, not just moments of escape or distraction, in the messy, ordinary reality of our lives? Can spiritual practice be more than just words? Can it become a living experience that transforms how we see ourselves and everything around us? The answers are not given all at once. They unfold slowly, like the first rays of sunlight breaking through a foggy dawn. Sometimes the answers come not in words, but in the quiet feeling that something within us is changing, that the weight we have carried is becoming a little lighter. And as we start this exploration together, let's not rush for solutions. Let's stay present with our questions. Let's notice what happens when we simply allow ourselves to sit in the middle of uncertainty, with compassion, with curiosity, and perhaps with a bit of gentle humor about our own human struggles. Because maybe the path to living peacefully and lightly in the second half of life does not begin with knowing all the answers, but with learning how to make friends with the questions themselves. Let, as you listen to your own questions quietly echoing inside, perhaps you'll notice there is a story, an experience, a lesson quietly waiting for you. In the next moments, we'll begin to uncover these together, not through grand theories, but through simple truths drawn from real life. As we begin this exploration together, let's pause for a moment and settle into the present. Imagine yourself sitting quietly, perhaps with a cup of tea in your hand, the gentle hum of the world receding into the background. What do you see when you look back on the life you've lived so far? Do memories come in sharp flashes or as a soft blur? Are there victories you cherish, wounds that haven't quite healed, or perhaps just a bittersweet mixture of both? Let's meet a few companions on this journey, real people, each at a different stage of the middle years, each carrying their own unique story. Anna is 53, a successful professional who spent the first decades of her adult life climbing every ladder she could find. She put her heart into her work, built a family, and achieved a level of comfort she never thought possible as a child. Yet, as she moved through her 50s, Anna discovered a quiet emptiness that all her accomplishments couldn't fill. She shared once, "I thought when I reached this age I would feel content, but instead I find myself haunted by regrets and anxieties about what comes next. I miss the simple joy I had as a child, just sitting outside, feeling the breeze with nothing urgent to do." Anna's story is not uncommon. For many of us, the first half of life is about building, striving, and achieving. But what happens when we finally reach the top, only to realize the view is lonelier than we expected? Anna's real breakthrough didn't come from achieving more, but from beginning to let go, bit by bit, of her tight grip on perfection and self-judgment. It started with small acts of self-kindness, giving herself permission to rest, to forgive herself for her mistakes, to value moments of stillness. In time, she learned that fulfillment isn't something to be chased. It grows quietly when we give ourselves permission to simply be, rather than always striving to become. แล้วก็มีเดวิด 61 ที่พบเห็นตัวเองเรียว after the loss of a long-time friend to illness. They quarreled, drifted apart, และ unresolved tension left David with a gnawing sense of guilt. He remembers sitting by his window one evening, watching rain slip down the glass, feeling completely alone. I kept thinking, why did I waste so much time being angry? Why didn't I call him? Now it's too late. Regret is a heavy burden, especially as we age. It is easy to become trapped by memories of what we should have said or done differently. But for David, the pain of regret became a powerful teacher. Through his sorrow, he discovered that the heart is capable of deep compassion, not only for others, but for himself. David began writing letters he would never send, letters of apology, letters of gratitude, letters of goodbye. This simple act opened a doorway. Rather than running from regret, he learned to sit with it, to listen to what it had to teach. He realized that, in the end, it is never too late to offer love, even to those who are gone. Forgiveness, he learned, is less about erasing the past and more about freeing ourselves in the present. Maya, 47, found herself at a crossroads after her children left home. For years, her days had been filled with routines and responsibilities. Suddenly, she felt unmoored, as if the foundation beneath her had vanished. I thought I would feel free, but instead I felt lost. Who am I if I'm not taking care of everyone else? Maya's journey became a lesson in surrender. She began to notice how much of her identity was wrapped up in being needed, in managing outcomes, in holding everything together. Slowly, she experimented with letting go. She tried meditation. She began journaling. She started taking long walks with no agenda. She noticed the way her mind clung to worry, the constant planning, anticipating, fixing. But as she learned to let go, even for a few minutes each day, something unexpected happened. A quiet space opened up inside her, one that was not empty, but alive with possibility. Maya discovered that her worth did not depend on how much she accomplished, but on her ability to be present, to notice, to breathe. She realized that life in its second half is not about controlling the story, but about becoming a gentle witness to its unfolding. What unites Anna, David, Maya, and so many others is a simple human experience. We are restless, not because we lack things, but because we fear loss. We chase after security and happiness, believing that if we just work hard enough, achieve enough, or love enough, we can finally settle into peace. But peace is not the result of winning the race. It is found in learning how to stop running. Buddhist teachings call this dukkha, the fundamental unsatisfactoriness at the heart of ordinary life. No matter how much we have, there is always a subtle discontent, a longing for more, or a fear of what we might lose. The Buddha didn't teach that life is only suffering. Instead, he showed that suffering arises from clinging to youth, to control, to our roles, our identities, even our memories, and that there is a path to freedom, not through denying life, but by meeting it with awareness, compassion, and a spirit of letting go. If you look closely at the moments that have shaped your life, births, deaths, loves, betrayals, victories, losses, you'll see a pattern. Nothing is permanent. Everything changes. When we resist change, we suffer. When we learn to flow with change, we discover freedom. This is not an easy lesson. Our hearts are tender and we long for something that lasts. Yet, if you pay attention, you may notice that even the deepest pain can soften with time. Old memories lose their sharp edges. Grudges become stories. Wounds become wisdom. Every breath we take is a lesson in impermanence. We inhale, we hold, we exhale, we let go. If you can sit quietly, even for a few minutes, and simply watch your breath, you are practicing the art of letting go. You are learning on the deepest level that you do not have to control every moment. You can trust in the flow of life. The middle years invite us to shift our attention from constantly doing to simply being. How often do we go through our days on autopilot, repeating habits, rushing through routines, barely aware of our own presence? Imagine what would change if you brought full attention to just one small part of your day. The way sunlight falls through your window, the taste of your morning coffee, the sound of a loved one's laughter, the feeling of your feet touching the ground. In Buddhist practice, this is called mindfulness, a gentle, non-judging awareness of whatever is happening, just as it is. It does not require special equipment or exotic rituals. It simply asks that you pay attention with kindness to your own experience. The gift of attention is the seed from which peace grows. Let's imagine an ordinary day ในไลฟ์ของแอนนา David หรือ Maya. Perhaps the morning begins with a familiar rush, making breakfast, checking emails, tending to chores. But today, you decide to do just one thing differently. You paused for 3 deep breaths before getting out of bed. You notice the coolness of the floor beneath your feet. You feel the gentle ache in your body, not as a complaint, but as a message you are alive. Throughout the day, you experiment with moments of mindful awareness. Maybe you notice impatience rising while stuck in traffic, and instead of criticizing yourself, you simply observe it. You watch the way thoughts come and go, like clouds drifting across a blue sky. At lunch, you put away your phone and actually taste your food. You listen to a friend, not with an agenda, but with a quiet curiosity. These small practices do not solve every problem, but over time, they begin to shift the atmosphere of your life. Tension softens, the mind grows clearer, and the heart, so often armored by habit and fear, begins to open. As we listen to these stories and reflect on these teachings, a quiet truth emerges. Spiritual growth is not something we achieve once and for all. It is a practice, a daily art, a way of meeting the ordinary moments of life with greater presence and compassion. No matter where you are, no matter what you have been through, the invitation is the same: to begin again, right here, right now. To let go just a little of the old stories, the regrets, the need for control. What would it be like if you treated the second half of your life as an experiment in gentle attention? What might change if you approached each day not as a problem to solve, but as a mystery to experience, with a spirit of curiosity and kindness? Maybe the real question is not how much time do I have left, but how can I be fully alive in the time that remains? And as you feel the gentle unfolding of this possibility, you may notice a subtle shift, a willingness to explore not only what is happening in your life, but how you are relating to it. In this space of openness, a new question arises. If understanding brings us to the threshold of change, what does it mean to actually begin? How do we move from knowing these truths in our minds to living them in our bodies, our relationships, our everyday choices? Perhaps the answer lies in the next quiet step, where insight turns into practice and the journey of transformation truly begins. There's a quiet moment that often comes after new understanding. You've listened to the stories, reflected on your own experience, and felt a subtle shift inside. Perhaps you recognize the patterns of clinging and letting go. Perhaps you see how attention and acceptance can soften your daily struggles. But now, a deeper question stirs within. How do I actually live this way? How do I turn these insights into living, breathing habits, into a new kind of life? True transformation is rarely dramatic. In fact, the greatest changes often begin with the smallest steps, tiny acts of courage repeated each day until they create a new landscape within your heart. Let's walk together through the gentle art of transformation, not as a theory, but as a living practice. No matter how long you have traveled on the path of habit, it is always possible to begin again. There's no need for grand resolutions or elaborate plans. It's enough to make a quiet promise to yourself. I will try today to be a little more present, to notice, to listen, to soften my own judgments. Many of us expect instant results, but spiritual growth is more like tending a garden. You plant a seed of intention, water it with kindness, and wait, sometimes patiently, sometimes impatiently, for it to grow. At first, the progress is almost invisible. You may sit in meditation for a week, a month, a year, and wonder if anything is changing. But then, unexpectedly, you notice that your reactions are softer, your patience longer, your heart more open. This is how transformation unfolds, quietly, slowly, beneath the surface. Transformation doesn't require you to retreat from the world. In fact, the true field of practice is your ordinary life. Every moment is an invitation if you're willing to accept it. Try this. As you move through your day, notice the urge to hurry, to judge, to control. When you catch yourself reacting automatically, simply pause. Take a single breath. Ask yourself, what am I experiencing right now? What does my body feel? What is my mind saying? This tiny pause creates a gap, space enough to see your thoughts and emotions as passing visitors, not permanent residents. You begin to choose your response instead of being driven by habit. Imagine a difficult conversation with a loved one. In the past, you might have reacted with anger or defensiveness, but now you pause, you listen, you notice your own pain, your own desire to be right. You ask, can I stay present even here? Even if you stumble, the act of pausing plants a new seed in the soil of your life. One of the greatest obstacles on the spiritual path is the search for perfection. We think we must meditate perfectly, forgive completely, let go entirely. But life rarely works that way. Instead, try approaching yourself with gentle kindness. When you slip, begin again. When you lose your temper, apologize, to yourself as well as to others. When you forget to pause, smile at your own humanity. As you practice, you may notice that the voice of self-criticism grows quieter. A softer voice emerges, the voice of compassion. Transformation is not about becoming someone new. It's about discovering beneath all the habits and fears the wisdom and kindness that have always lived within you. Let's explore some simple ways to weave mindfulness into the fabric of your life. Morning ritual. Before you reach for your phone, take 3 slow breaths. Feel your body. Notice your thoughts. Set an intention. May I meet this day with openness and care. Mindful movement. Whether walking, stretching, or just making tea, pay attention to the sensations in your body. Notice the way your feet touch the ground, the rhythm of your breathing. Listening practice. When someone speaks, give them your full attention. Let go of the urge to interrupt or plan your reply. Listen not just to their words, but to the feeling beneath them. Evening reflection. At the end of the day, spend a few moments recalling the events that passed. Where did you notice beauty? Where did you struggle? Offer yourself gratitude for your efforts and forgiveness for your shortcomings. You don't have to do everything at once. Even one mindful breath, one act of kindness can shift the direction of your whole day. The more you practice, the more you'll notice a gentle ripple spreading outwards. As your mind grows clearer, your presence becomes a gift to others. You'll find yourself more patient with your family, more understanding with friends, more willing to forgive. This is not because you have become perfect, but because you have become more real, more in touch with your own joys and sorrows, and more able to meet the joys and sorrows of others with empathy. Sometimes transformation happens through small acts: a smile to a stranger, a moment of silence in the middle of chaos, and an apology sincerely offered. With each act, you nurture not just your own peace, but the peace of everyone around you. Transformation does not mean erasing all pain from life. Change will come, loss will come, challenges will arise. But with practice, you discover a new way of meeting what comes, not with fear or resistance, but with courage and curiosity. When difficulty appears, try asking yourself, what is life teaching me in this moment? How can I meet this with an open heart? It may sound simple, but in these questions lies great power. They turn life's challenges into opportunities for growth, for deepening, for awakening. Sometimes we believe that spirituality is something to be performed, something to prove to ourselves or others. But true practice is not a show. It is a way of living, quiet, humble, sincere. Every day is a chance to begin again. Every moment is a fresh invitation to return to presence, to kindness, to the wisdom of letting go. And as you walk this path, you may notice that the boundaries between practice and life begin to blur. The way you wash the dishes, the way you listen to a friend, the way you comfort your own sadness, all of these become expressions of the same deep intention: to live peacefully, to live lightly, to be awake to the miracle of this very moment. As your days unfold in this gentle rhythm of practice, you may sense a subtle lightness growing inside, a quiet confidence that you can meet whatever comes, not with anxiety or regret, but with steady presence and open-hearted curiosity. And in this spirit, you may find yourself wondering, if living is itself a practice, what does it mean to truly awaken? Is there a deeper freedom waiting just beyond the habits of everyday life? Let's continue to walk this path together, exploring the next steps on this journey of awakening. As you move through your days, experimenting with small acts of mindfulness, perhaps you begin to notice a subtle but profound change. The surface of life, the challenges, the routines, the unexpected storms, still shifts and moves as always. But something within you responds differently. There is a quietness at the center of your being that you hadn't known before. It's as if a gentle light has started to shine through the cracks of ordinary experience, illuminating what once felt dull or burdensome. This, in the language of the Dharma, is the first sign of awakening. Not the dramatic enlightenment stories you may have heard, but an inner revolution so subtle that it almost escapes notice. A simple sense of, I am here, I am aware, I am alive in this very moment, and that is enough. Awakening isn't about escaping life's realities. It's about meeting them so directly and honestly that they can no longer frighten or control you in the old ways. It is about learning to let go, not by force, but by insight, to see clearly how your fears and attachments arise and dissolve, like waves on the ocean, leaving the vastness of awareness unchanged. You might remember a recent morning where a moment of frustration, a spilled cup of coffee, a harsh word from a loved one, triggered old habits of anger or self-judgment. But now there's space between the event and your reaction. You notice the old urge to blame or despair, but you also notice that you do not have to follow it. You can pause, breathe, allow the feelings to rise and fall. You can respond with gentleness instead of reactivity. With practice, this space grows larger. Life's difficulties do not vanish, but their hold on your happiness weakens. The heart learns to rest in the midst of uncertainty, even pain. In this way, the practice of living lightly becomes less about changing external circumstances and more about discovering an unshakable peace within. Awakening does not mean you become passive, indifferent, or cold. On the contrary, you find yourself becoming more alive, more tender, more connected to the world around you. When someone suffers, you feel it, and your heart moves naturally toward kindness and compassion. When joy appears, you savor it, without clinging or fear. One of the deepest insights on this path is the wisdom of impermanence. Everything changes. Everything passes. This can be frightening at first, especially when it comes to things we love. Yet, if you look more deeply, you may see that the very impermanence of things is what makes them precious. The smile of a friend, the sound of rain, the colors of dawn, none of these will last, and that is why they are so beautiful. To live lightly means to celebrate this fleetingness, to treasure each moment as if it were a gift, because it is. Impermanence also teaches us about loss, aging, and death. In the second half of life, these realities come closer. But awakening invites us to meet them with honesty, not denial, with a spirit of curiosity, not dread. Death is not the enemy of life. It is what gives life its poignancy and urgency. In accepting impermanence, you find a freedom that no success or achievement can give you. You discover that true security does not lie in holding on, but in letting go gracefully. As you walk this path, another dimension of awakening comes alive, the natural blossoming of compassion. The more you see your own struggles, the more you recognize them in others. The dividing line between me and them grows thinner. You begin to wish not only for your own peace, but for the peace of all beings. Compassion is not a duty, but a joy. When you act from this place, whether it's a small kindness or a great sacrifice, your actions carry a new kind of power. They heal not only others, but yourself. They connect you to something vast and timeless, the great river of love that runs through all of life. You may notice, too, that your judgments soften. The old habit of dividing the world into good and bad, right and wrong, begins to loosen. You realize that every person you meet is, in some way, struggling to find peace, just as you are. This insight brings humility, forgiveness, and a new kind of courage. As the heart opens, you become more comfortable with not knowing, with letting life unfold on its own terms. You stop fighting against what is. You discover the art of surrender, not giving up, but giving in to the natural rhythm of existence. Surrender does not mean passivity or resignation. It means trusting that life is wiser than your plans, that the current will carry you where you need to go, even if you don't understand it. In surrender, you find strength, a resilience born from trust, not from stubbornness. In your daily life, this might look like letting go of old resentments, saying yes to new opportunities, or simply resting when you need to rest. It means honoring your own limits, forgiving your mistakes, and allowing others the freedom to be who they are. Surrender makes space for mystery, for grace, for unexpected joy. Perhaps the most surprising fruit of awakening is a growing appreciation for simplicity. The desire for more achievements, more possessions, more validation begins to fade. You find contentment in little things, a shared meal, a quiet evening, the softness of your own breath. Simplicity is not about having less, it's about needing less. It's about discovering that what you truly seek, peace, meaning, love, is always here, in the present, waiting for your attention. You might declutter your home, not as a duty, but as a way to clear your mind. You might say no to commitments that drain your energy, so you can say yes to what nourishes you. You discover the freedom that comes from living honestly, without pretense or excess. Awakening is not a single event, but a way of living. Some days you may feel clear and bright, and others you may stumble, lost in old patterns. This is normal. Every moment offers a new beginning, a new chance to remember, to return, to rest in awareness. You do not need to measure your progress or compare yourself to anyone else. The journey is uniquely yours, unfolding in its own time. The important thing is to stay curious, to keep listening, to keep returning to the heart of practice. In the end, awakening is not about becoming someone else. It is about coming home, to the person you already are, to the life you already have, to the present moment as it is. As you rest in this awareness, you may notice a subtle question stirring within, a question that invites you deeper. If awakening is not a final destination, but a continual unfolding, then how can you live each day as a living expression of wisdom and compassion? What does it mean to walk through the world embodying the lightness and peace you have discovered within? With this curiosity alive in your heart, the journey of your days takes on a new depth and meaning, and you find yourself leaning forward, eager to discover how the path of gentle wisdom continues to reveal itself. As the gentle process of awakening unfolds, you begin to sense that wisdom is not just a distant goal, but a companion for each step you take. The old patterns, anxiety about the future, regret about the past, restless striving, still visit from time to time, but they no longer define the shape of your days. Instead, a quiet trust settles within you. You realize that you can meet life as it is, moment by moment, with an open mind and a spacious heart. This is where the teachings of the Dharma come alive, not in abstract philosophy, but in the ordinary flow of living. Living lightly does not mean floating above life's realities. It means moving through them with grace and awareness, touching each moment fully, but without clinging or resistance. Perhaps you find yourself standing at the kitchen sink washing dishes in the soft morning light. Once, your mind might have raced ahead to all the day's demands, but now you pause to feel the warmth of the water, the curve of the cup in your hand, the steady rhythm of your breath. You notice that even in this simple act, there is a chance to be present, to be alive. Throughout the day, every moment becomes an invitation to return to this presence. The sound of traffic outside, the laughter of children, the taste of a favorite meal. These are not distractions from the spiritual path, but the very ground of it. Each one calls you back to yourself, to the miracle of awareness itself. And when difficulties arise, an argument with a loved one, a sudden illness, a wave of grief, you find yourself reaching for the tools that practice has given you. You breathe, you listen, you offer yourself kindness. Sometimes you stumble, sometimes you fall, but you no longer judge yourself so harshly. You know that being human means being imperfect, and you learn to welcome even your mistakes as teachers. As the years go by, relationships often become both more precious and more complex. Children grow up and leave home. Parents age. Friendships shift and change. Yet, instead of tightening your grip in fear or loss, you discover the possibility of loving without possession. You realize that true compassion is not about fixing others or controlling their lives. It is about offering presence, listening deeply, and holding space for others to be just as they are. You learn that setting boundaries is not selfish, but necessary for genuine connection. You give yourself permission to say no when needed, and yes when your heart is truly moved. With practice, you notice that old wounds, resentments, misunderstandings, regrets can begin to heal, not by force, but through the slow, patient work of forgiveness and understanding. You discover that reconciliation is not always possible, but inner peace always is. Living in your 40s to 60s and beyond brings inevitable changes. Bodies age, loved ones depart, dreams evolve or dissolve. The future becomes less predictable, but the fear that once haunted these transitions now gives way to a deeper acceptance. You find yourself letting go of roles and identities that no longer fit. Perhaps you leave a career, move to a new place, or simply allow yourself to be quieter, less hurried, less driven by what others expect. Letting go does not mean giving up. It means making space for what is truly meaningful. It is about releasing the need for certainty and trusting the wisdom of impermanence. When grief comes, you meet it with tenderness, not suppressing it, nor letting it overwhelm you. You allow your heart to break, and in breaking, it opens. You see that loss is not a failure, but a profound teacher, a reminder that nothing is truly ours to keep, and yet everything can be loved fully while it lasts. As you simplify your life, a new kind quietly emerges, a joy not based on achievement, but on gratitude for what already is. Perhaps you find delight in the quiet companionship of a pet, the warmth of the sun on your face, the kindness of a neighbor, the sound of birds at dawn. You learn to say thank you, not only for what is easy, but even for challenges, recognizing that every experience offers some kind of lesson. This practice of gratitude becomes an anchor, a way to steady the mind when restlessness or fear arises. It helps you see that what you have right now is enough. You no longer chase after happiness in the future. You discover it in the simplicity of the present. With the passage of time, many find themselves called to give back, to share what they have learned, not as experts, but as fellow travelers. Maybe you mentor someone younger, volunteer in your community, or simply become a steady, compassionate presence for your friends and family. You realize that your life story, with all its twists and turns, is a gift. The struggles you have survived, the lessons you have learned, the peace you have found, these are seeds you can plant in the hearts of others. Purpose is not always grand or dramatic. Sometimes it is as simple as being fully present for someone who needs to be heard, or offering encouragement when hope feels far away. You learn that meaning is made moment by moment in the ways you show up for your own life and for others. Even as you settle more deeply into wisdom, the future remains uncertain. There will always be moments of doubt, confusion, and sorrow. But now you meet them with curiosity, not fear. You trust that you can walk through darkness without needing to see the whole path ahead. You rest in the knowledge that whatever comes, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the compassion to respond. You let go of the illusion of control and embrace the adventure of not knowing. Each day becomes a new beginning, each breath a reminder that you are alive, awake, and capable of meeting life's mysteries with an open heart. The story of living lightly and peacefully is never finished. Every moment, every breath, every encounter is an opportunity to begin again. There will be days when you forget, when old fears return, when you feel lost or discouraged. But you remember that the path is not linear and there is no final destination, only a continuous unfolding. You give yourself permission to rest, to renew, to celebrate your progress, and to forgive your setbacks. And as you listen now, perhaps you sense this truth deep inside. The second half of life is not a decline, but a homecoming, a return to what matters most, a ripening of wisdom and love. In the end, living lightly is not about having less or doing less, but about holding everything, joy and sorrow, success and failure, love and loss with gentle hands. It is about walking through life awake to its beauty, awake to its fragility, awake to the miracle of simply being. It is about knowing that you are enough exactly as you are, and that each moment lived with presence and compassion is a gift to yourself and to the world. So as this journey of reflection draws to a close, the invitation remains to keep returning to presence, to keep choosing kindness, curiosity, and gratitude, to keep exploring what it means to be truly alive in the time that is yours. There are no final answers, only the endless unfolding of the present moment. And in that unfolding, you may discover again and again that the secret to living peacefully and lightly is not hidden or far away, but waiting quietly in the next breath, the next step, the next act of love. And so, with a heart both humbled and uplifted, you walk onward, lightly, wisely, and fully alive, wherever the path of life may lead you.